keep the cameras off, and I was going to try and mute people. Let me see. I won't try, but hopefully everybody be nice and quiet. If anybody makes a lot of noise, I'll mute you, if that's okay. So lovely. Handing over to Orsetta and Megan.
Hello, everyone. I'll just share the presentation.
Thanks, Tori, for the introduction.
Oops, sorry, wrong one. Where is it? There you are.
Thanks. So, as Tori mentioned, Orsetta and I have been working on the community composting project for the last 2 years, which has been funded by the Climate Action Fund, which is also part of the National Lottery. And the aim of the project was to set up community composting on Lambeth housing estates. So for context, at the time, Lambeth Council didn't collect food waste from housing estates. They collected from like general houses on the street, but not in estates. They do now have a climate action plan to install food waste bins on estates by 2025. But what we found in the project is that education is really important for composting and recycling to be able to actually be successful. So our aim was to divert food waste into compost that residents could use on their community gardens or their houseplants, rather than the food waste going to landfill or being incinerated. You can go to the next slide, thanks. So in terms of our approach, the key focus was for it to be community focused and community led, because without community focus, it was like probably less likely to work as well as it did. We learned a lot from Brighton and Hove Food Partnership, who you're going to hear from after us, who've been running a similar project in Brighton for the past 10 or more years. And we visited the Brighton Hove compost project, and we also had residents visit over 2 occasions to learn more about how Brighton and Hove run their community composting, and what their compost is looking like. We used a co-design method. So at the beginning of the project, we worked with residents from both the IEL Community Garden Network, and we invited residents as well from Lambeth Housing Estates to help us design the project overall in terms of like how we would be communicating with residents to get them interested in the project, how we develop the flyers, and general engagement approaches. We decided to focus on estates that mostly already had community gardens, because they would already have a community established, and then it would be easier to increase engagement. And we also ran a bunch of workshops to increase engagement with residents. So that included a package digistoria workshop, which was run by Bowie, and visits to Brighton and Hove. And I think Orsetta is going to talk a bit more about some of the other workshops. We also ran nonviolent communication workshops, and this was just to help support residents with communication or conflict resolution that can often occur in community groups. And this also included, we also offered tailored support to 2 estates who had requested it. And in the last couple of months, we have been supporting residents on estates to run their own events to increase the engagement. I'll pass it on to Orsetta.
Hello, thank you. Well, when we started, we kind of set up a system on how to deliver this project. And what we did was we advertised through the IL members that the project was starting, and if anyone was interested to get in touch with us. So that's how people sort of inquired or got in touch, they would like to have a community composting on their estate. We needed about 4 to 5 people to start the project with. So if there was one person, we will ask, can you ask other residents to if they want to get involved? But we will, because it's we were doing it only in Lambeth Council. We were talking to either Lambeth Council if the estate was managed by Lambeth, or any other housing association, for the permission to do the composting project there. We provide all the materials, all the compost bins, the caddies, the compost aerators and gloves, but also we also going to give some sieves and wheelbarrows, but also instruction on how to do it. We deliver, once the bins were installed, we deliver how to compost workshop, that's where we give away all the caddies and the compost tools. And because the bins all have a padlock with a code, people that know how to use it, that they came at the workshop, then will be the people that will have the code to open the bins. And then the role of the residents will be to teach other people how to use a compost bin to avoid contamination. We have a WhatsApp group established for each project, so that's how the people communicate. And if new resident wants to join, all they have to do, they scan a QR code that it's on a sign. That actually we installed all the big signs today, so sorry there's no photos on the presentation. But each lid has a sign with the QR code and instruction as well on how to use the compost bin, and they join the WhatsApp group, and then people can ask, can someone show me how to do it? And every now and then we check in via the WhatsApp group. We also check in, or we did check in into go and see if the compost, how it was doing, or when we sort of go and see the compost bins. What we've done so far, we managed to set up 40 compost bins in 14 housing estates and in 1 school. We engage probably more than 450 people. We supported residents, engaging residents with other residents. So the idea is train the trainer. We trained some residents how to use the compost bin, and then they were teaching other residents on how to use it. And it's very much their project. From the very start, we knew we only had 2-year funding, so we wanted to make sure that the project can continue without us. Obviously, they will miss us, I think, and some people already messaged us, please don't go, don't leave us. But we were trying from the very start to do that. We delivered, as Megan said, we did lots of workshops. So we did non-violent communication training, because we thought that some of the estates had already some conflicts happening or some problem with other issues. We had some tailored non-violent communication training to try and support them, but we also did non-violent communication training that was advertised with all the IL members, and the feedback were always good. So I think more NVC is needed everywhere. We visited Brighton, so thank you. We had 2 trips, one last year, one this year, and everyone is always very enthusiastic to go and see Brighton and see how it could be. That they'd have it in parks and everywhere, and they're starting on estate too, but I know they will present that as well.
Less than 2 minutes, Orsetta.
Whoa, all right, go Megan.
I'll go quickly. I'm not going to read these quotes, but we've received some feedback from the residents, and these have informed our key learnings. So we've received some lovely feedback, and some of the main themes that have come out is that the community composting project has had a really big positive impact on people. It's brought people together. It's brought neighbours together, people who wouldn't normally come together. So for example, one garden, they were struggling to get residents interested in the garden. I think they started with 2 residents, and with interest in the community compost project, they've managed to increase the amount of people. I think there's maybe 5 or 6 key people now involved in the community garden. And it's also brought different community gardens and different community composting projects together from across Lambeth. In terms of environmental impact, this is a picture of one of our Pacadilla Story events, but it's people involved have become a lot more aware of their waste and how it impacts the environment. And they're thinking more about recycling and how compost is a circular thing. So the food that they're composting is feeding the soil, which is growing their food, their fruit and veg, and then that goes back into the compost. I'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, so some educational value.
Now, just so you know, we're over 10.
Well, really quickly, just a few points. Is residents are taking upon themselves to learn more about composting and teaching others. We've managed to people always thought that compost smells, but we managed to win them by saying with the correct mix, it doesn't smell and actually nice and earthy. We got kids into composting and into worms. And we noticed education was really important for the correct composting and also recycling to work. And yeah, that's key learning. And residents also have started getting more involved on the estate and the gardens, and that's Megan mentioned that as well. But people before didn't really feel like they had ownership on the land, although they could do things. And some groups managed to start a community garden because of the project, so which is very good.
Do we have time to go through the challenges, or shall we wrap up?
Really quickly, like just
Okay.
name them. Don't explain them.
Yeah,
maybe.
so I guess the main challenge at the beginning was to engage people, and that's why we've tried to do different workshops. We've supported residents to run events to increase engagement, which has helped to some extent. The next slide is that usually it was 1 or 2 residents that approached us with interest in setting up the compost bins, and it was often difficult for them to door knock and get people interested. So lack of capacity was one of the other challenges.
And yeah, some tips and challenges, as we said, was engaging with residents, work with the housing estate or housing officer or RSO, engage the kids and the young people to then pass the knowledge onto the family, and show people how to compost, deliver more community engagement program. We ran a joint event with a compost bike doctor and composting, and that attracted different people, and we managed to talk to composting with them. But the challenging is getting people into composting and existing conflict, getting volunteer to be the composting monitor. That was the most difficult part. And yeah, attending the consultation, they weren't very well attended at the very beginning, but yeah. And what we give is compost bin turners, signage, and we have a how to build compost guide, how to compost guide, how to set up a community composting project is coming, but everything will be ready on the IL website and anyone can download it. So you feel free to then go in a few months to the IL website and you can have all the resources available to use. And that's it from us.
Yeah, thank you very much, both of you. Just to say, we're still completing the new website, so it's not quite there yet, but it will be. But thank you very much, Orsetta and Megan, and for everything you've done. It brought a massive amount of skill to the project, and different skills and determination and really hard work. So thank you very much. And I'm going to zoom on to Helen MacGregor.
Hello all, I'm just going to share my screen, so let's give it a go. Bear with me a moment. Can you all see that okay?
Perfect.
Fab. Okie dokie. So I work for the Brighton Hove Food Partnership, and we're a not-for-profit that focuses on bringing our community together through food. And that's mainly around teaching people to cook. We have a community cookery school. We teach people to grow, and we have wellbeing gardens, and we teach people to waste less food, which is where our composting project comes into play. So in Brighton and Hove, we don't have a food waste collection, which surprises a lot of people because we're thought very much of as a green city. It's because about 25, we got locked into a contract for 25 years, which didn't include food waste collection. It does all the plastics and everything else. So our councillors over the years, different administrations, have been trying to get out of the contract, but we've still got another good 10 years to go. So as a result of that, we decided, the partnership, to see if we could set up a composting project. And we set up a pilot about 11 years ago now, and it's in the gardens near our office. And we, I'm just going to do a little thing. So this is us a long time ago. This is our team. Sorry, I should have done that one. Or whiz past. So yes, this is one of our sites, and it now has 6 compost boxes. It's grown and grown, but the pilot was very successful. And we then approached Brighton and Hove City Council to see if they would be happy to fund us. Unfortunately, they said yes. We're now on to 55 sites that we have across the city. So that's a lot of people composting. We have about 1,200 households who are joining in. Here we go. Our sites are in lots of different places. So as you can see, all different varieties of settings. So they're in community gardens, in parks, in blocks of flats, and just by the roadside as well, so quite a few of them. So now, so we've been through quite a process with the boxes. We've had a bunch of different designs, and the one on the left, the Brighton box, is our current design. We have a lovely chap called Tim the Bin, who is our maintenance guy. He builds all the boxes there. So with the sites, they're set up of, they're made up of a set of 3 compost boxes on rotation, and you can see there, the one on the left, what we've done is we've developed them so that they have a collar there that opens out so that it's easier for you to dig out your compost. They also have wrap proofing at the bottom, which is like a wire mesh to prevent the lovely rodents moving in. They are also locked, so they're secure. They're made with Euro pallets on the bottom, and all the wood's recycled. They normally last about 7 years, so they're pretty durable, and Tim will go out and do some maintenance and repair work should we need it, but it tends to be more that somebody's used them to jump off in a park than anything else. So he's really good at fixing them up. So our compost boxes only take raw fruit and veg waste. They take tea bags, coffee grounds, things like that. We don't work with processed food or cooked food, just to minimize the interest for rodents. All of our sites are free for the residents to join. And a bit like you've got over in London, we've got free compost caddies for everyone, free training on how to use them, and they get a code to access them. So they're locked for people who don't know how to use them. When our members come along and add their food waste, they also add a bit of carbon. So they bring some torn up cardboard with them, shredded paper, wood chip, and give it all a bit of a mix up. So that's lovely Tim the Bin there in one of the boxes that he's built at one of our sites that's opened. And these are some of our wonderful volunteers. We're really lucky to have over 100 volunteers across the city, and they're all amazing. Each site has 2 or more volunteers, and when they leave, every now and again, Brighton's quite a transient city. So I often on the hunt for new volunteers, and I look at our waiting lists or put it out in our newsletter or on our social media, and we generally find people to come along. I was out today training 4 new volunteers. I support them all. I do all the training for them. A lot of them haven't made compost before, but really don't want to be putting their food waste in the bin. We've developed a really great handbook as well to share with them so that they've got some nice materials there so they know what they're doing. And again, a bit like you guys, they get all the equipment, the gardening gloves, the forks, all that sort of stuff. I visit the sites and troubleshoot as well if they're not sure what's happening with the compost, if the balance of the carbon and nitrogen isn't quite right. And each volunteer comes out and they tend to turn the active box once a week. So the box that's getting filled up, that gets turned once a week by the volunteers. And they also report any repairs if they come in. So when the compost is ready, they share it out with the members. a lot of the people who live in the city live in flats. There's a really high density of flats. I myself am the same. So often we have a lot of compost left, but there's always someone willing to take it. So we have loads of community gardens that will snap it up, or allotment holders who'll come out and get it. So we also have some groups who've applied for funding separately. So they've been volunteering at their local group in a park, and they've decided they wanted to have a hot composting tumbler so that they could have processed and cooked foods. So these are some of our volunteers, and they've got grants or fundraise to put in the tumblers and then attach them to their sort of traditional box scheme that we have. So like you guys, we've had lots of lovely feedback from our volunteers and from our members. They arrange summer picnics sometimes, or pub meets and growing competitions with the compost. But they also let us know how important it is to be part of the scheme. Like you guys, you know, it changes how they approach their food shopping. A lot of them are more careful about what they purchase. They're more careful about how they recycle, and more careful about food waste in general. This is so some of our projects are also in schools. So this is a photo up there. You can see in 2014 that was a project we put in, and prizes for guessing who who this is, because the chap on the right in 2022 in the purple t-shirt is in that original photo. He's one of those kids in there holding a box, and he's now at university studying permaculture and wanted to set up a site in his street. So it just shows how it really stays with you. He's painted that box at the bottom as well, and you know, it's a really important thing for a lot of people. It really builds community in such an amazing way, and obviously it's fantastic for the planet, but there's so much more to it. And so the future really for our project is that we've unfortunately lost a lot of our funding recently. We aren't able to open any new schemes, and the project is oversubscribed. We've got 560 people on the waiting list. We're looking at funding grants, we're looking at bids, so hopefully we'll be able to continue. And then we're also thinking about starting a new project, so to grow herbs and vegetables around the sites of the composters, so that people on low incomes and local residents can access some vegetables. We're in talks actually next week to see if we can get some agreement from a landowner if we can start doing that. So that's where we're going to go and try and create more of a closed loop system with the boxes. And again, we have lots and lots of resources on our website if anybody wants to access anything, or get in touch or a conversation about it. And that's me done, I'm afraid. I think I'm a bit less than 10 minutes.
And I just wanted to say thank you again.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say thank you again to you for all we've learned from you. We learned about the bins, we got the design of the bin. Orsetta wants to say something, but just to say thank you for your generosity with sharing information with us.
You're very welcome. It's an absolute pleasure, and we're always keen to help people set up projects elsewhere.
Orsetta, did you want to say something?
No, I just made the applause sign.
So
well done.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And so now we're going to go on to Harry. Where are you, Harry? There you are.
Yeah, I will just share my screen.
From Lyon.
Indeed. So yes, my name's Harry Bloom. I'm going to talk to you today about my composting efforts in Lyon, France. So quick, where, what, why? Yeah, like I said, it's in Lyon, France. I've got two ways I'm composting at the moment. One is the aerobic composting, like the normal standard composting bins you've seen in the previous images, and then also the Lyon city have just installed some like composting drop-off points around the city, so now I'm using that quite a lot as well for my my kind of processed and plate scrapings and meat food waste, which is really great. And why? Because yes, I care a lot about prevention of waste. I love the circular nature of food. I also build an app to help people recycle, reduce food waste, so I need to practice what I preach. And also, yes, no more bin juice, because now I can compost all of my food waste. So nobody likes bin juice. So yeah, I'm going to talk to you quickly about what has gone well in each of the different composting options I'm doing. So these are my beautiful composting bins just outside our building. So these were funded and installed by Lyon City. The city have actually put quite a lot of money and effort behind like getting less waste going to landfill or incineration. I think their goal in 2021 was to reduce the weight of waste going to incineration by 50%. So they are funding quite a lot, which I can feel and see my day to day, which is great. So they sent they're working with a company, and they sent the company to come and install these composting bins. They provided some training for the original group who expressed interest. I think there was like 10 or 12 of us. And then that group, similarly to what Incredible Edible said in my first talk, that group were in charge of then training the future people who join the group. So what that training looked like, we had specific like composting times in the day, and then a new person who wanted to join had to come and compost with like the coordinators at that time. And once I think after 2 or 3 sessions, once we were like happy with the training, and if they've understood anything, we'll give them a code and make a compost at their will. Recently it's become a little bit more relaxed. We've got like a WhatsApp group in our building with just a QR code as you walk in the building to join the WhatsApp group. Now people are just posting messages in the WhatsApp group saying, hey, how do I get the code? And we just have one session now. We say, okay, meet me at this point, meet me at this time. We give a 20-minute kind of training session and then give the code. And honestly, that's been fine. Like we've not had any problems with that up to now. But we're only about 40 people in the group now. So yeah, maybe when we get to the scale of what we were seeing in Brighton, it might not do. But for now, it's working well. And also the WhatsApp group has been useful, I think, for a couple of reasons. One, for people posting questions when they're not sure about what to compost, which is worked well. And also the inverse of that, the naming and shaming. Like if somebody puts something which is contaminating the compost, we're quite happy to take a picture and just say this is contamination, and then people learn very quickly. But it's done in a nice way, so I think it's worked well. Next is the drop-off points. So this has just been installed like a couple of months ago, just outside my apartment. It's about, I think I read on the Lyon website, there's 1,400 at the moment, but it's going up to 2,000 of them being installed in the city throughout the end of the year. So there's loads, and we had someone come and knock on my door who gave me this lovely caddy with 100 of these paper bags. So it was super easy to get up and started. That's like a really low barrier to entry, so that was very convenient, and it's worked very well for me. Yeah, like I said, now I can compost my plate scrapings, my meat and processed food, which I couldn't before, which means I'm amazed that I only take my bin out like every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, my residual waste. So it's really had an impact of my waste footprint, which is great. And yeah, but this is maintained obviously by the city. It depends how popular a place, how busy the place is where it's installed, but I read that it's emptied between 2 and 5 times per week and cleaned between 2 and 4 times per month. So yeah, I've not really had any worries or issues with it being really smelly or full. Like it's been working really well so far. So what has not worked? Yeah, so we did in the winter, we had a bit of a dry material shortage in in our aerobic composting bins here. It started to smell, and it was really moist, which wasn't great. Yeah, I think there's nobody really took responsibility to kind of follow up and contact the people in charge about getting the dry material. Since then, the building manager kind of got some dry material, and that's been sorted now. Compost smells good again, which is good. But yeah, I think that was like one of the big issues over the winter. I personally have been having some insects enjoying my I've got 2 caddies, but the one which has the processed food waste, and constant battles with like moving it around my terrace, trying to get the insects not to enter. But it's a constant battle I'm having. And yeah, the third question, I haven't actually got any data points around, because I'm not in touch with anyone from Lyon City, but I'm asking myself what the contamination rate is in these anonymous drop-off points. I'm assuming it's somewhat high, and I'm wondering if the waste is actually processed at the other end. But yeah, wondering if anyone has any, like, something for a discussion afterwards, but anyone has any data points on that, and if this kind of anonymous composting actually works. Anything I would do differently? Yeah, so it's good to hear all of the community stuff what Incredible Edible are doing. We did a little bit on my side, but I feel like we could have done more. Like, for example, when the compost was actually ready to collect and use, we didn't really celebrate that enough. Like, we just put it like next to the compost bin, and we didn't really have like any community element to it. But I think that's like a great moment where we could perhaps like get together and say, like, let's have like a mini party or something, giving out compost. You know, that could have been that's a missed opportunity in my opinion. Yeah, like I said, we've only got a few 40 composters in the group, but I imagine we would need more structure as that grows. And the last point is something I'm always telling myself, like, I feel a little bit less guilty now when I do throw like food waste in my compost. But still, like, to keep like the waste hierarchy in mind, like the best waste is like the waste which is not produced at all. Like, if I actually eat that last bit of food, it's a lot better still than composting it. And composting is obviously a lot better than throwing it in the residual waste, but I'm still trying to keep the whole hierarchy in mind and not wasting at all. Not recycling if not possible. And that's it. That's a beautiful picture of some of our compost. Thank you.
Fabulous, thank you, Harry. We've actually posted some questions on the chat, so we will go to Bowie now, and to talk from Costa Rica, to talk about the Paca Digestora, and but please do post questions, and then maybe Marge can read some out at the end, and we can hopefully find some answers. So if we go to you, Bowie. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Harry, for joining us. We haven't as a collective worked with you that much, but so it's great to hear about Lyon and something what's happening somewhere else.
Thanks.
Hi. Thank you for the invitation again. My laptop is a little slow, so I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yep, it's fine.
Okay, thank you. Awesome, thank you. So as Tori mentioned, we're based in Costa Rica, and obviously it was colonized land, so it's also always great to do a land acknowledgement. We live in Cartago, Costa Rica, and it has been traditional territory and homeland of the indigenous Huetar Nation. And now they have been displaced in settlements in Quetiricí and Zapaton. And still today, Cartago is their meeting place, their home, and we're very grateful to be in our territory. Okay, next slide. Let's see. So I know Megan and Orsetta talked a little bit about our work doing Paca Digestora. So we have a collective here in Costa Rica, and we learned this technique in Colombia. It was a technique initiated by a forestry engineer called Guillermo Silva Perez, and he is still spreading the technique around Colombia and around the world. And we're very grateful for his work. And this is the technique that we mostly use because it's very efficient, it's very economic. All you need is literally what you see here, which is the mold, and a shovel if you have one. If you don't have a shovel, a big stick will do.
Yeah.
And then organic waste, like food waste and yard waste. Obviously, a lot of the other techniques that you've all mentioned are also great. In our opinion, as long as people are composting, just find the way that works best for the community and for you, and compost away. So very short, description of what it is. Basically, I've talked about this, which is the mold, the shovel. It is a compact, freestanding compost tower, and it can fit 500 kilos, which is half a ton of organic matter in just 1 cubic meter. So a little bit of what we've learned, the good, which is it obviously regenerates soil, regenerates land, is a really great hotel or restaurant, we call it, for microorganisms like bacteria and fungi. It's great for raised garden beds to grow edible, ornamental, or herb garden. And so here you can see in July of 2022, we started growing some beans and pumpkins. And then in November, it just bloomed into this jungle without any chemicals, without any, or even biological fertilizers, no fertilizers whatsoever. And we never used any pesticides, we never used any herbicides, nor do we need them, because the paca itself has a lot of microbes and it creates such an environment where it is sort of a natural control in itself. And so since then, it's been 2 years now, we're in 2024. We have grown pumpkins, lima beans, and now it's a soapberry and Cape gooseberry patch with stray chili plants. So this pumpkin patch has been replaced, and still we have not put any fertilizers, and everything is growing very happily. So this is a great way for gardens because you're composting and growing at the same time. It's also great for water retention, just remembering to put mulch on top of the soil after you finish the paca. And obviously this is very much linked to food sovereignty. Composting and food sovereignty are very deeply connected, allowing us to have healthy, nutritious food that is not contaminated by chemicals, right? So this is one of the very important points for us to bring this to communities. Here, just really, really nice to see biodiversity, because one of the things that paca is good at is you don't need to flip it. It's an anaerobic process. So in anaerobic processes, I'm sure all of you composters out there know, that there's a very low level of oxygen, but the not flipping it also allows the microorganisms and the fungi to actually thrive. Whereas when you flip it all the time, you're disturbing, well, mostly the fungi, because they're growing these, the mycelium and the hyphae. And when you're flipping it all the time, you don't allow the mycelium to develop. And so there's less or not much fungi activity in aerobic composting, whereas in anaerobic composting, you do see a lot more development of fungus, different kind of fungi coming up. And so a lot of different, after a rain, we'll see a lot of mushrooms pop up, and even, things that we don't see obviously visible to our human eyes. Here you can see this very camouflaged tomato hornworm, and then various other insects, butterflies, more mushrooms, just a lot of life. Usually insects are not welcome in compost piles. Obviously cockroaches or roly-polies are, but maybe flies. There could be a lot of flies if the mix is not right. One nice thing that we've learned from pacas is that we don't have to worry too much about the mix. As long as the food waste is covered, there won't be any, a huge amount of flies. There will be some fruit flies around always, but it won't be a huge amount to disgust people. And so on to some of the social benefits. some of the things that we've learned along the way is that it's really great for communities and people of all ages. So we've encouraged children and elders to join our workshops, and it's a great way to involve the community for collective climate action, obviously reducing food waste in the landfill as a community, like all of the projects have mentioned today. There's also this pedagogical opportunity for children and involving children in the outdoors, away from screens, away from always being stuck indoors, and also having that opportunity to educate their parents, doing things together, right, in nature. And as you can see here in this picture, this before and after, it's a great way to improve the appearance of the neighborhood. A lot of times when we think compost, it's smelly, it looks bad, or it's liquid, it's rotten. And in this case, it's actually beautiful. You have a very nice raised garden bed in the community, growing pollinator plants. And this is what it is. This community painted the wall to be a mural, and they had butterflies on it and bees. I need to ask for an updated picture here. And all these plants are now very big and with lots of flowers. And so they've made this compost space into a pollinator garden. And another thing we've learned is, okay, so this is the constructive things that we've learned. So lesson 1 is always put signage. It's important as indication to communicate what it is. A lot of people may not have even heard of the concept of composting. And so communicating what it is, what it does, or even how to get involved, right? Having a WhatsApp number, or like some of the QR codes that Incredible Edible are doing. And we had an experience where we did a workshop with the municipality. And then 2 weeks later, we went back to the same site. And mind you, this is like a 200-kilo tower that it's very difficult to move just by human force, right? And 2 weeks later, we went and the site was completely clear. And we were thinking, what happened? There was no signage. But we were thinking that probably the waste management side of the municipality actually went in with probably a forklift or something and then remove the whole thing. And so that's the importance of actually having signage that's saying that this is a compost pile, please don't touch, please don't destroy, right? So that's a very interesting way to learn that lesson. We never figured out what happened to the 200 kilos of yard and food waste, probably ended up in the landfill, sadly. But yes, a great way for also public education, because signs generate curiosity. Another lesson 2 is when the food waste is very liquid and soapy. In some, in other systems, you probably put more dry material, right? More browns. Whereas in the compost Paca di Gestora system, we really just encourage compacting the sides. So for those who have done our workshops, you'll know what I'm talking about. So instead of compacting all at once at the end, you compact the sides as well. So step on it, maybe you put a bucket in the middle where the hole is supposed to be, and you compact the side to make it very, very tight, and so that the liquid doesn't leak out. So we have only had one case where liquids, because we didn't know that the food waste was soupy, so we didn't compact the sides. But always make sure that if that's the case, then the sides are compacted. Same goes with feces, because actually the Paca di Gestora system can also compost feces. And so when we do excrements, human or animal, we make sure to compact the sides so that there's less chance of it kind of seeping out when the process is done. And then this is the third lesson. As you can see, this is not a perfect square. It's very much destroyed. That's because animals went in very curious, very hungry, and they just tore it apart. And so when you make a paca, and this is very, very rare, it happens mostly to the small pacas. And so I mentioned earlier that the standard size is 1 meter cube, 1 cubic meter. But some people maybe make a smaller mold and they make it smaller. So what we've learned is that don't make it smaller than 60 to 70 centimeters per side. And if you do, make sure that the walls of the nest is still 20 centimeters thick. And this is getting into the technicality of it. Probably only the people who have done a paca will know what I'm talking about. And that's because you need to keep the walls of the nest thick so that when you do compact, the food waste doesn't seep out. And so as you can see here, you can see the food waste pretty much up to the edge, flush with the edge. And so that's why, you know, animals have very good nose and they will, you know, pick it out and they will go for it, right? And so this is one of the lessons we've learned as well. And just wanted to end on a happy note. Composting is always more fun in groups. Composting can be very fun. It's not gross. It's, you know, humans doing our sacred duty and role as recyclers in nature. And so, you know, we should not be disrupting the process. We should be contributing to it. So some pictures to show how fun composting can be in this system as well as in other systems, I'm sure. And I've never left a workshop without lots of smiles and excitement. And when are we going to continue? When are we going to do the next one? This is me testing out paca, showing that there's nothing gross, you know, you can sleep right on it. And it doesn't make your clothes dirty. And of course, a very big thanks to Incredible Edible Lambeth and hosting the workshop last year. It was certainly a lot of fun. And also thank you for inviting us to this workshop, this talk. And I would like to just close on an invitation to you all, which is the Pacathon, marathon version of a paca 2024. September 12th, which is the World Day of Paca di Gestora, also the birthday of Don Guillermo Silva. And I will be sending more information to Megan and Orsetta on how to get involved, how to be a part of this global movement. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much for the collaboration you've done, and also for that beautiful, it's such a rich presentation, so full of kind of inspiration. And yeah, it's just it's a different type of composting, so it's really interesting to see. I'm just going to really quickly introduce with our next funding, and we hate this stop-start funding, but it is the way it is. So the funding for the compost project at the moment with Orsetta and Megan is coming to an end, but we have got funding from Lambeth Council to do to work with 8 council estates to improve the biodiversity. And I just want to introduce you to Thea, who started work with us today. Where are you, Thea? If you say hello, maybe it'll come to you. Where?
Can you hear me?
Can I see you? Yes, there you are. Can everybody see a few waves and maybe people, there you are. Brilliant.
Yeah. Hi, yeah, so yeah, my name's Thea, and yeah, as Tori said, I'm started working with Incredible Edible today. This morning actually was my induction. And I'll be working as the Estates Biodiversity Coordinator. So yeah, just working with 8 different estates in Lambeth to increase biodiversity and get people gardening, sort of build community. So yeah, thank you so much for all of this. It's so wonderful to kind of hear what everyone's been doing, and it's really inspiring as well. I'm taking a lot of notes and kind of thinking about all the ways that I can sort of apply what I'm learning this evening actually to what I'm about to be doing. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Whoop, sorry. Thank you, Thea. And I just dropped her in it, actually. Didn't with that at all. But it's really just to say that although the support we've been able to offer won't continue in the same form, but hopefully the Estates Biodiversity Project can pick up a lot of it and a lot of support. And it's great that Thea can learn from you all, from what's been happening already. Shall we go to the chat, or does anybody want to ask a question directly? Marge, where are we with the chat? Do we want to?
Well, I'm just going back. Harry, how many households compost in 4 wooden boxes? So what's the ratio, the box size to the amount of households?
Have to do some mental maths. We've got 3 buildings, and each building's like 5 floors, and there's 4 apartments. So there's like perhaps perhaps about 240 apartments, but there's only kind of 40 people actually active, like who have the code. So it's only about 40 people for those 4 composting bins. So it's actually the activation rate in the building in its entirety is not that high. Actually, that's a really good point. I haven't thought about that. We're not really advertising it much, apart from that QR code I mentioned in the building entryway.
Okay. And how often do you switch the box round?
So it's between every 6 to 9 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I just read out something, Marge? Sorry, if
Go on.
Ben. Ooh, oh God, we're shooting up and down the thing. But basically, Ben is from South London Urban Garden. I think it's called Slug, and they do composting near Sainsbury's on Dog Kennel Hill. And he's got a different technique. Ben, do you want to quickly say? Because I can't get the stupid thing to work properly. Is he there?
Hello, Tori.
Hi,
Can you hear
Ben.
me?
Yeah, yeah.
Hello. So the technique we use, which is known as the Johnson-Su method, but it's quite simple. Basically, when we load the pile up, we put plastic pipes or just straight logs in at like 30-centimeter intervals throughout the compost bay, and then after about 3 days, we take them out. And then we also have a pallet wrapped in chicken wire at the bottom of the pile. So there's air passing up through the pile, through the air chimneys, and circulating all round. And that we find is like a good middle ground between not disturbing the pile, which breaks up the fungi, and yeah, keeping the pile aerobic, and yeah, it's a really good method if anyone wanted to. Yeah, there's lots of videos on YouTube about the Johnson-Su method, and it's very straightforward.
Thank you. I think probably, does anybody else want to ask a question? There's various questions in the chat, and then people have been answering them as well, so no pressure.
There's quite a few questions about the Packadigestore, about how to start one and fill one.
Could you do that, Megan? Could you read them or ask the questions?
What's the way to start to fill out a Packadigestore, and then
Yeah, they're all sort of similar, aren't they? So maybe we just
a quick rundown on how to make a Packadigestore. Oh,
Sorry, I've just shared the photo of Ben's compost
excellent.
so that people can see what it looks like. But yeah,
composting's brilliant. So I don't know, Megan, or sorry, Bowie, do you want to just give a quick answer on how to make a Packadigestore? Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, sure. I'm just quickly looking for the step by step, just so that it's more clear. Okay, give me 1 second to share
Bowie,
my
I
screen.
also messaged people saying that we can share the instruction that you gave us.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, if you can see my screen. Yeah, so it actually, it's a couple of steps, and the lessons I mentioned refer to some of the steps. I'm going to turn off my video because the internet is not good. Okay. So you have to have branches. You have to have yard waste, when you weed things, and grass, maybe cut grass, and dried leaves, and needed in different parts of the process. And so in the beginning, basically, it has to sit on top of soil. And then the second step is you put some thick branches about the width of your arm, the girth of your arm, as a base layer, as a foundation. And then you put yard waste on top of that and you compress it. That's the biofilter layer. And then when I'm talking about the walls, it's really here in step 3, where you have yard waste and twigs and very thin twigs around the borders. And it's about, you make about 15 to 20 centimeter thick wall of this nest, if you will. And it's a very thick nest. So yeah, think bird nest, but thicker. And then you leave a hole in the middle, and that's where all the smelly things go. And that's food waste, right? Essentially in the middle. You could also add 1 to 2 liters of cooking oil per layer of paca. And so once you've added the smelly things in, you can chop it, or you can just leave it if you don't have time or you don't have a shovel to chop it up. And then you cover with more yard waste and compact. So that's the fun part. People put music and they dance, right? Or they jump on this part, and you're not your shoes are not in direct contact with the food waste, but they're rather just stepping on a thick layer of yard waste. And you repeat making a nest and then putting food waste into the middle of the nest and then covering that food waste until you have 1 meter tall of a paca. So that's basically how you make a paca. We always encourage people to do an in-person workshop because it sticks a lot better, and also for you to see exactly components come together, because there may run a risk of not having it compact enough or not having the walls thick enough. Those are the 2 main problems that we see then with food waste leaking out from the sides. So after that, once you have 1 meter tall, or you just you finish with your food waste and you don't have more to compost, you remove the mold, right? So this is a freestanding. You don't have a mold around this. So that's the idea. So when I say that construct the walls or how you fill it up is really with a lot of yard waste. So it's about, the proportion is about half. You have half yard waste and half food waste, but always err on the side of having more yard waste. Because the idea is you don't want the food waste to be exposed, and you don't want the bad smells that people don't like about composting, right?
Thank you so much. I'm really aware of
Thank you.
time. We're trying to be good about time. And if it's okay with everyone, people have also asked if we can share the recording. So I think we might write to everybody that's attended and send some resources and the recording. So you've got information afterwards, if that sounds okay. And just another really big thank you to everybody. I also want to thank Janie, actually, because as our director, she initiated doing the first food story about composting, which launched the whole of our project and got us into the importance of composting. So thank you very much, Janie, for that, the origin person. But thank you so much for everybody for attending, and for all our speakers. It's fantastic to have such a rich array of information and to be making a community of composters. And so if there's nothing else to say, then we'll go.
Thank you, Tori.
Thanks, Marge. And thank you very much to everybody for coming. It's fantastic to see you all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
33
Thank you.
people.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant.
Thanks
Thank
so
you
much.
very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Are you hanging on?
I was going to just for the IL people, but there's quite a lot of people still here.
Oh, Fiorella was there.
Purely, yeah, I saw her earlier, yeah, the name. Oh, Orsetta's still here. Megan's gone, I think. Is that right?
I think Janie's gone as well.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say thank you anyway to the IL people.
Yeah, well done, Orsetta. It was great. And Megan. It's a fantastic project. It's just a shame it's like a 2-year thing that's had to stop. It would have been interesting if we'd heard all the you know, the things that went wrong or the things that you needed, you know, you do differently the next time?
There was some of that, but I think we're definitely looking at all of that and pulling it together so that we can pass that on to sort of improve what happens with Thea and whatever we do in the future. Because I mean, you know, it's been hard won, all of the success, and they've done incredibly well to chisel it out.
We need a longer presentation just for our project.
I know. It's
Yeah.
like you were the only one that's at 10 minutes. Yeah.
I know.
No,
But,
to
yeah,
say.
2 of us, it's tricky. Yeah, we had lots to share, not enough time.
I know.
It's good to stick to an hour though, I think, because it gets a bit tiring.
Yeah.
I'll turn off the recording. Oh, damn.
Anyway, I've got to go.
You can cut the recording, Tori, when you want to share.